Greetings, everyone. I recently had a conversation with a colleague about popular ESL activities that teachers like to use in order to get their students talking. In this discussion, he asked me more specifically how we can improve an activity called talking about a photo.
David, the other day I told my students to bring a picture to class the next day. Then, in the next class, I had them get together with a partner and talk about their pictures. I ended up with mixed feelings about how it went. Some students did quite a bit of talking, but often they just seemed to monologue rather than really interacting. Other students didn't really seem interested in their partner's picture. And some ended the conversation rather quickly. And I noticed some kind of seemed shy about answering personal questions that their partner had asked about the picture. So, what do you think? How can I improve this activity?
And it sounds like you would like to make the activity more than just students talking, and I agree. We want students to come away with some conversational skills that they can apply beyond the classroom. And we can have them practice specific techniques when talking about pictures.
Great. It'll be interesting to hear how you do it. I know one problem I've had is that when I tell students to bring in a photo, I have no idea what kind of picture they'll bring. And often pictures really aren't really conducive to much interaction.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So here is a way that you can do this. Let's say that you want students to practice being active listeners by using listening responses or rejoinders for showing sympathy for someone. For example, some expressions would be, oh no, or that's terrible, or that's too bad, or I'm sorry to hear that. So instead of students bringing in pictures, you find a few, perhaps online, and either copy them on paper or display them on a screen. For example, I've used these. And here are the directions. Directions. You will use your imagination. Choose one of the pictures. Pretend that you took that picture with a camera. So we can encourage them to use their imagination when they talk about the picture.
That sounds interesting. Let's try one out.
Good idea. How about if you choose a picture? With my students, I usually give them a couple of minutes to choose a picture and think about it before putting them in with a partner. But you and I, let's just start right now.
Okay, I'll choose the car accident. Okay, so this is a picture of my car.
Oh no, which is your car?
Mine is on the right.
Oh, that's too bad. What happened?
Well, you know the parking lot off of Holly Street, right?
Right?
So I was driving on Holly Street, and this guy drives out of the parking lot and hits me. I'm sure he was looking at his cell phone.
Oh, that's terrible. Were you hurt?
A little, my neck is sore, and the airbag broke my glasses.
Wow, your airbag opened?
Yeah, that was a surprise.
So you and I could easily continue this conversation. And you would use your imagination as we talked about fixing your car, talk about insurance, talk about the other guy's reaction. And, then you could even ask me if I've ever had an accident.
Oh, yeah, I can easily see the potential.
And then after a while, I'd choose one of the pictures. Maybe I'd choose the picture of the little girl and tell you that this is my daughter, even though I don't have one.
Now that sounds like a lot of fun. I can already think of a lot of questions I'd like to ask you just to see what kind of answers you'd give me with your imagination.
Right. So maybe you noticed that I used a lot of expressions of sympathy and follow-up questions like, oh no, which was your car? And that's too bad. What happened? And that's terrible. Were you hurt? And wow, your airbag opened?
Yes, I like that. It really made me want to say more, but I'm not sure my students would automatically use rejoinders of sympathy and follow-up questions.
That's a good point. So, in a lesson, before you do this picture activity, you'd want to introduce those types of rejoinders and follow up questions. I'll include a link in the notes below where you can go to download for free some exercises that you can use with your students to help them understand how to use these and how to practice them.
Cool. I imagine that if I wanted to have them practice rejoinders of surprise, like, really? You're kidding. Wow. I'd find some pictures that would get them to use those, right?
Exactly. For example, one of the pictures could be this, and I'd pretend that I took that picture. See the player in the yellow shirt?
Yes.
That's my cousin.
You're kidding.
No, really. He came in fifth place at Wimbledon a few years ago.
Wow. Did you ever play tennis with him?
So we could continue talking about his personality, how rich he is, and even talk about our own talents.
I see. So then, when I want to use this activity, all I need to do is show them some pictures that will encourage specific rejoinders. Tell them to choose one of the pictures, put them in pairs, tell them to talk about the picture, and use rejoinders and follow up questions that we had practiced in a previous lesson.
Well, almost. There is one more step to do before starting. You want to give them a model to demonstrate how they should interact during the activity. So in the link below, you can find some examples of how you can model activities. But I'll tell you about one of them here.
Sounds good.
This takes a couple of minutes for students to do, just a couple of minutes. In pairs, students read two dialogues and identify which one shows students carrying out the activity correctly. In this example, student A has a picture of a huge house with a swimming pool. So let's read these. I'll be A. So dialogue one. This is a picture of my house.
Is it expensive?
Yes,
Who lives with you?
my wife and 6 kids. Now here's dialogue two. This is a picture of my new house.
Wow, it's huge. Is it expensive?
Yes, it cost about $5 million. You know that I'm an author, and I paid for these from all the books that I sold.
Wonderful. I want to hear about your books, but first tell me about the rooms in your house.
Okay, and then here's the question that they answer. Who were more active, A and B or C and D? And naturally, they can see that C and D were much more active. So after they do this model in pairs, then I point out how C and D used rejoinders and follow-up questions. Like, wow, there's a rejoinder. Is it expensive? Follow-up question. And I point out how D used a lot of imagination, saying he was an author, which of course he really wasn't.
Great. I can't wait to use these with my students. You know, one problem I sometimes have is that a pair of students finish talking while others are still really involved in their conversation. I imagine that if that happens, I can just tell them to choose a different picture and have another conversation.
Right. That seems to work really well. Also, if you have, some extra time during your class, but you don't really want to start a completely new activity, you could have students change partners and do the activity again. And when I've done that, I notice that some students choose a different photo, or some of them use the same photo they had with their previous partner. Both ways really seem to work well.
Okay, well, this sounds like a great improvement over having students bring their own pictures. I especially like how I can easily customize it for practicing specific listening responses.
Exactly. There's usually a lot of laughing when we do this because they are using their imagination. And it's funny, after we finish and they go back to their seats, or if it's the end of class, I often hear them ask other classmates what picture they had chosen with their other partners and what they had said. So that's a better way to talk about pictures. You'll find in the notes below 5 other popular activities with explanations about how you can do them better. Thank you for watching.